Welcome to Behind the Cusp, a podcast diving deep into the layers of self-growth, inner work, and transformation. I'm your host, Marissa Mead, and after 15 years as a digital creator, I'm sharing my raw, unfiltered journey of healing and self-discovery to walk alongside you in yours. Together, we'll dive deep into the conversations that matter most, uncovering what it means to truly evolve from the inside out. This is where you elevate into transformation. So take a breath, settle in, and let's begin. Welcome back to Behind the Cusp. We are kicking off 2026, and I'm so happy to be back behind the mic. I have been in my little cocoon for the last couple of weeks post-holiday time. I'm back in Florida here right now. As some of you may know, I got back the day before my birthday, and I like to spend my birthday and New Year's with my boyfriend here in Florida. And then I'm actually going back to Connecticut this weekend because I have to wrap up some things at my house and get my car and some other packing things and all of that. And then I'll be back here for the season. So I'm really excited to be here. And I also am really excited to be back in my little office and the little podcast studio-ish space that I have here. It just feels like it's the podcast, if that makes sense. I started the podcast here. I bought the couch that I'm sitting on to record for the podcast, both by myself and with guests. And so it just feels right to be back here and recording. I'm really excited for the year ahead. I'm excited for where the podcast is going to go. I have just big dreams and vision and goals for what it is. I think I shared this the last time, but 2025 was such a learning experience. Like for me in general, it was a big transition year. I shared this on my birthday post on my normal feed if you follow me over on Instagram, but it was a year of transitions, so much transitioned. And even as I started out this year, there still is transition happening, which is not surprising to me at all because the new year technically isn't really until spring equinox starts in March. So we're going to dive into that in today's episode. But if you are still in that phase of feeling like your year didn't really end, you're like, the calendar might be here, but I don't feel like I am. Like there's still some things that are wrapping up and closing. That is so normal. That is so in tune with who we are as beings. And so I'm excited to dive into that today. I kind of teased this a little bit last week. I actually wanted to launch this episode last week with the first full week of the year for you guys, but I had a few unexpected things come up with work that were a little bit more like 911 that I needed to tackle and handle, which I will probably end up sharing a little bit more in the coming weeks once I'm out of this initial phase of it and have some things kind of situated, but I had to tend to that. So everything else took a little bit of a backseat. Nothing bad, all good. Great way to start the year. I'm excited about it. It was just needed my immediate attention. But today we're going to hone in on talking about how January is not for reinvention and hitting the ground running and all of that. It is for rest. And I teased this, like I said, a little bit on my Instagram and even just how I approach January. So if you are listening to this episode today, if you're tuning into this episode today and you are kind of in this place where you're just it seems like everyone out there is just hitting the ground running and there's this urgency to, get things done and organize or start the year off in a certain way or whatever, but you don't feel very called to that or pressured to be that way or whatever, that is totally normal. And this episode is really going to set the tone or even direction to give you permission to have a different way to begin your year. This is something that I think when you were in the process of becoming, the process of evolving and returning home to who you really are on a soul level, it's something that will happen really naturally. This is something that happened naturally for me, I would say maybe like within the last 3 to 5 years. I can't really pinpoint exactly what year, but I want to say it was about 5-ish years ago that I noticed January, every time I wanted to like start the year off with like goals and routines and this and that, like I got really burnt out, and it didn't feel natural for me. It felt like I was pushing and feeling this resistance. And when you feel that, no matter what it is in life, you want to pump the brakes and ask yourself, like, what's going on? Why? There's a reason for that. If you're feeling resistance in anything, don't keep pushing. And I say that with like, obviously, if you're feeling resistance in something like as basic as weight training, you want the resistance there. But I'm saying like, if you are pushing forward in a season or time and you're constantly being met with resistance or doors closed or whatever, stop and reevaluate and look and see why or what's going on. But so I just felt like starting the year that way felt unnatural. And for me, it was like I took the whole month of January and even into February to really just reflect and come back to what even my whole year previous was, and really set the tone and dive deep into what I wanted the year ahead to look like. And then once March would hit, it would be like the first 6 to 8 weeks of the year I'd feel this, and then once March would hit, I would almost feel this release, this energetic release where it was like an exhale, like a and then I was like, oh, I can do this and I'm ready to go. Like the gates are opening and we're flooding through kind of thing. And so as I've incorporated more of this into my life and learned even more about this and learned more about my feminine energy and learned more about our cyclical nature and even just the timeline of our literal calendar and how that's been changed. As I've learned these things, I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. So if that is you, if you have felt that ever, if you are feeling that right now, this episode will be so good for you. And if you are someone who likes to hit the ground running and have, all the things checked off and the closets cleaned out and the things rearranged or, whatever that might be, maybe this episode will give you a new perspective or even permission that you may feel you need to step back and really start the year rejuvenated. So think of this episode as your permission slip to start the year in a different way. And we're going to talk through a lot of this together. I actually wrote down a ton of different notes because this episode has been brewing with me for probably 2 to 3 weeks now. And different things would come to me in different moments. And I have been jotting little notes down and just different things that I was feeling and all that because I really wanted this episode to feel personal for all of you guys. And so I am going to dive in using my notes, kind of referring back to them and also just letting my own, energy flow through this episode. But as a whole, January carries so much expectation for us. I think there's this pressure and expectation, especially as women who, and business women, new goals, new routines, new wardrobe, or creating a new identity, creating like all these things, organizing, clearing, cleaning. It can be exhausting. It can be feeling like you're hit on every single angle of like, okay, if I'm not clearing out a drawer today, I'm not feeling productive. If I'm not getting rid of a whole bag of clothes, I'm not productive. And we see this obviously everywhere on our social media, commercials on TV, like everything. It's like weight loss, gym, this, that, whatever. And it's really exhausting. You're just bombarded. And there's also, I think, this quiet kind of lingering exhaustion that comes after December. And I don't say exhaustion in a bad way. It's like we're coming off this high, the holiday magic, the holiday, hustle, bustle. There's so much that you're just coming off of, this like adrenaline rush. And the day after Christmas, it hits and you're like, holy cow. And I honestly think that the 3-4 days that we may have before it's like new year all in our face is really not enough. We need more time to rejuvenate. And so we're going to transition kind of that pressure into starting the year slowly, intentionally, prioritizing our rest, restoring our mind, restoring our nervous system, which is probably zapped from the 9,000 things that we had going on in December, going inward, listening to our soul, listening to the still small voice within that may be whispering our desires. And when we are hustling and bustling and rustling around, we aren't able to tune into that. This episode, I want you guys to treat it as an invitation to exhale. Wherever you are right now, if you are driving on your commute, if you are out for a walk, if you are folding a load of laundry, if you are at the grocery store shopping, if you are just sitting on your couch, chilled out, wherever you are, take a second and just let's exhale together. And on that exhale, let's ask ourselves the question, what if January isn't about becoming someone new, but it's actually about coming home to ourselves? What could that look like for us, and how can we start our year differently? And where I want to start with this conversation is returning to the roots of winter. We are deep in the season of winter, especially if you are up north in New England or even those Midwestern states. It's freezing, it's cold, there's snow, there's ice, all of the things. But I'm in Florida here and we are still in winter here. Yes, it's like nice during the day, but we've had some nights where it's in the 40s. It got down to 40 degrees like 2 weeks ago for a couple nights in a row. So it's chilly. It still is winter no matter where you are. The energy of winter exists even if it looks different where you are geographically. But the concept of winter, and not even the concept, but the season of winter and then what it symbolizes for us, is something that's ancient. It's something that is in the cycles of the earth seasons, and it's innately in who we are as humans. It's not something that we can just ignore or extract out and act like it doesn't exist. I come to Florida to like escape the coldness of the winter in Connecticut and up north, but the symbolism of winter and what it is and even how I feel is still there, even if it's in a different temperature, in the 50s and 60s and 70s instead of the teens or whatever. We've gotten disconnected from that ancient wintering, if you will, in our modern world. In our modern world where we're bombarded on every angle. But as you walk through the process of becoming, like I touched on a couple minutes ago, and you return deeply to who you are at a soul level, returning to who you are as an individual, you may feel the tug to sit back and not be doing right now, but instead being. In its true nature, winter is a season of hibernation, restoration, stillness, rest. You think of like that first snowfall, or even when it's snowing, there is a stillness and quietness in the air that exists that I don't think is any other time of year. I love that feeling of the snow when it's coming down and you walk outside and you're like, wow, there you could hear like a penny drop in the snow type thing. Winter is cold. It's dark. It's not rushing. Winter doesn't rush. It is deeply in the process of renewal. Everything in the earth is in the process of renewal. Our plants, our ecosystem, the trees, the animals, everything is in this process of deep rest and renewal. And that's not something that we can rush or press the fast forward button on, or like the quick little arrow of 10 seconds on our iPhones. Like, we can't do that with winter. Winter honors our biological and energetic cycles. When we push past the winter that we're naturally supposed to be in, we're going against what we are innately created to fall into, essentially. If you feel a disconnect right now, or you feel like you are, quote, behind on all of the new year, new this, new that narrative, if you will, you're really not. You are actually more connected to who you really are deep down. And if you like realize what that really means, you're almost like, whoo, wow, okay. It's like this energetic release, you know? And so this brings us back to the concept of rest. Winter is rest in its ultimate, simple, basic level. It is rest. And rest is not the absence of growth. Sometimes we think of rest of like, well, if I'm not doing anything, then, you know, this isn't going to grow, or that's not going to work, or whatever. But rest is actually the foundation of growth. Things cannot grow without rest. Growth will not happen without the resting, without the restoration. Newness and new things and new growth and new birth and all of the new cannot be birthed. Ancient civilizations understood what we've forgotten. The beginning of the year actually started in March. It started at the spring equinox. We may signify this with our clocks turning again. And the new year was actually switched to the month of January by Julius Caesar in 45 BC. I'm getting historical, technical with you guys here, but this is really important to understanding this whole concept. The new year was switched to January by Julius Caesar in 45 BC. He ruled the Roman Empire, and he did this for like administrative and I believe taxation purposes. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I remember reading because I was doing some research on what the new year is. And this is why the months September through December all end in BER. There's a significance of this because they actually are, though that BER is derived from the Latin word for the numbers 7 through 10. So those months are actually not 9 through 12. They're actually 7 through 10, with January and February being 11 and 12. And then we enter into the new year in March. Fascinating. Is that not fascinating? And so because a Roman emperor changed our calendar, like our society has shifted into this changing that goes against literally how our cyclical nature of our world, which boils all the way down on a minute level to us, was created. So March signifies the spring equinox. This is when the transformation of winter starts to gain momentum. It's where the shift starts happening. It's where the buds start coming. And looking back at January wasn't originally about reinvention and redoing and renewing and all of that. It was about standing at the threshold. It's like the culmination of the whole year prior. January is where you look at that, you reflect on that, you go back, you go inward, you analyze, you rest, and you look back at what was, while also simultaneously sensing what's next, waiting for the direction, waiting for the movement forward, and sensing what that's going to be, and grounding in where you want to be to then head into that when the new year starts. Somewhere along the way, it's like we missed or lost that mentality and decided that January was the month that we were going to forge ahead. Christmas is here. We are now forging ahead. We are pushing ahead, and everyone's like exhausted. Everyone's sick. Everyone is resting. Everyone's trying to come off a crazy month. And like January usually is not the month where you're on top of the world. Let's be honest. That's natural. So we are so disconnected from our natural rhythm because literally we're just viewing the calendar. I guess you could say the quote wrong way. So if you, on the flip side of that, take the time to rest in winter, your spirit and your body will be rested and refreshed. You will naturally be inspired by the earth's natural blooming when it happens in March. The energy blooms. Literally, the trees start blooming, the flowers start blooming, the energy is shifting. You will be coming alive at that same time. Physically, spiritually, mentally, energetically, all the ways. You are energized to create. You are ready to go and grow, and you are aligned with the season of expansion. Spring is the season of expansion. Things are coming alive and expanding to be in their fullness, which is in the summer. Instead, right now, we live in a world where everything is about the pressure of the new year. It's like new closet, new bedding, new clothes, new routine, new me, like it's exhausting almost to think about because you're like, how do I recreate all of this? And the thing is that you're not supposed to do that. So if that exhausts you, literally shift it off, throw it in the mental trash can, and don't worry about it from here on out. When you push against your innate nature and go against the flow, if you will, it's going to create guilt. The guilt that, oh, I'm not performing, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, I'm behind. Then that leads to anxiety because you're not keeping up, you're not checking the boxes, you're not organizing the thing, you're not doing whatever. The new routine, the new workout, all the things. And then that leads to burnout. Burnout when you're trying to juggle a million things. Burnout because you're stressed, because it's like a literal domino effect that just right down the line. Our modern world has taught us that productivity should be constant. Every season, every week, every month, every day, like productivity. And the thing is like we live in a cyclical world. The seasons are cyclical and we don't always need to be striving for more. Our bodies, our nervous systems, our businesses, even our families, they're not built for this. We are cyclical, especially women. I think like my entire podcast listener, maybe besides my boyfriend and one of his best friends who listens to the podcast, and I love them because they support me so well, but everyone else is a woman on here, but even if you're a man, it's still cyclical. But women experience a literal cycle every single month. Why do you think they call it our cycle? Because we are cyclical. Our cycle is something that we go through every month, every 28 to 30 days. We are ushering in a new cycle that has 4 different phases, just like the yearly cycle of the earth has 4 different phases. You see how this is mirrored all through creation, which is so incredible. And in that, we realize we are part of nature. We are not machines that we turn on the on switch and never turn off. When we go against this, we burn out the machine that we think we are. And when we honor this, the cycles, we then return to the natural being that we are. I think the biggest misconception of rest, and this is something that like I have not perfected by any means, you guys. Some days I'm like, oh my God, I shouldn't be laying down. I shouldn't be resting. I shouldn't be taking a break or whatever. This happens all the time because we're conditioned to think that rest isn't productive. But the misconception of rest is that we're going to fall behind. We aren't doing enough. We aren't good enough. We aren't hitting that goal. We aren't starting our goals. Like, you know, there's this misconception that you're not going to be doing enough. Even me, like right now, I have not really done anything new for my business, like content-wise or anything, up to this point this year. And what is it, the 13th? This is the day I'm recording this. It'll launch on the 14th. This is one of the first new things I've done this entire year. And if I were to go look at my peers online, they're cranking out content and all that, and I'm not knocking that at all. If that's what they're feeling pulled or called to, that's totally fine. But for me personally, I can't start my year that way. I can't start my year just like immediately like boom, 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 all these things. Obviously I have work obligations or certain things that I am quote required to do, but the level of production that I'm doing right now is way less. And I could easily look at that and compare it and be like, oh, well, I'm going to fall behind or whatever. But honestly, I've done this enough to know that if I honor these natural cycles and natural pull that I am in, I'm only going to be propelled forward further in the right times of that cycle. So taking the time to rest in January for a couple of weeks is not going to make my entire year derail. It actually is something that's going to propel me forward even more because I'm not burnt out when it comes to the natural nature forward movement times. Ultimately, I'm not, and if you are in the same place, like you are not missing propelling forward at the beginning of the year. You know, it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare. Think of it that way, where the tortoise is just on its steady grind, on its steady movement forward, and the hare might start out fast, but burns out in the middle and has taken that rest, and boom, there it goes. I don't want that to happen, and I want to honor the natural cycles that I'm created to be in. And when you do that, you are disconnecting from all the noise. You're disconnecting from what everyone else is doing, and you can hear yourself. You can get grounded in what you feel is right for you. You can hear the tugs. You can feel the tugs, you can feel the pulls, you can hear your desires, you can hear the whispers of what you want your year to look like. You can also take the time to really reflect. Reflecting for me is not an hour or two on a Saturday where I write down some thoughts of the year before in my journal. I take a long time to reflect on the year that I had. I look at my year from a personal standpoint. I look at my year from a business standpoint. I look at my year within my relationship. I really take time to evaluate and just look at all these things and think about what growth happened and what was forward movement and like how I can continue that in the year ahead and use that to align my year with where I'm feeling the direction kind of pull. And when you're bombarded with all the things that we see online and you're too connected to maybe like a social life or things outside of the home or whatever in January, I'm going to talk more about that in a second, it's really hard to feel connected to that mindset or attitude, if you will. So I just want to encourage you to take that time, take the time to reflect and pull back and get rid of all the noise around you. I take a couple weeks off social media where I literally do not post. I don't even go on my phone. Like you guys, I don't think I opened TikTok one time that I can even remember. And Instagram, I want to say I opened it. I could count on one hand the amount of times that I opened it and was like in the app. And there would be times where I'd catch myself opening it and I'd be like, I don't even want to see this. Like, I don't even want to know what everyone's doing. I don't even care. Like, it was such a time of inward renewal. And I truly treasure this time because I see the benefit and the fruit of it in my life in the last couple of years. So the rest won't put you behind. I can promise you that. It actually will put you ahead, because the forging ahead or the full steam ahead or the full speed ahead will only cause you to crash and burn out and be deep in the thickets of anxiety or nervous system dysfunction or anxiousness or just constantly feeling like you can't catch up. So now when you're in this time of rest, what do you actually do? Maybe you're like, do I just lay there on the couch? Do I just stare out the window? What do I actually do in this season of rest? Great question. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to offer some ideas or even a new framework of thinking, a new way of being for you to spend your time in rest. And the other thing is that I want to encourage you is don't put a timetable on this. You may feel the depth of this being like a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Like I said before, I have felt this deep restorative period last for me for 6 to 8 weeks. And I really feel like the coming alive, if you will, happen more towards March. Don't put a timetable on it. Just be open and be intuitive and be willing to listen to the nudges that you feel this process is taking you in. So a few things that you can do in this season of rest, things that I do, things that I would really recommend. One is, yes, literally rest your body. And when you physically rest your body, you're also going to allow your nervous system to rest. And I feel personally like so many of us are in nervous system overload, nervous system dysfunction, nervous system overkill, whatever you want to call it, because we are zapped on every angle right now. We're bombarded on every angle, and resting your physical body will allow your nervous system to rest. Your nervous system will usually need more time to catch up to your body. So you might take, let's for example, say, take a nap for an hour. You might feel physically revived or refreshed from a nap or even a long night's sleep, but your nervous system needs more time to almost catch up to where your body is with rest. So the longer you sit in the rest and not the pushing, you are going to allow your nervous system to heal and to reset and to be restored. In winter, we naturally have less light. Even if we weren't changing the clocks back, like the sun is still setting way earlier than it does in the summer by like hours. And so this is an indication that we are called to rest more. Like our bodies produce melatonin when it starts getting dark out. It starts getting dark out 3 to 4 hours earlier in the winter than it does in the summer. This is our bodies naturally honoring the cycle of rest that it's like the world or our solar system, whatever, is indicating to us. So honor that rest. Go to sleep earlier. Get an extra hour or two of sleep every single night. I always go to sleep earlier in the winter. Like once it starts getting dark out, I'm like, okay, my mind is even winding down at the end of the day where I'm like, okay, I am done. Like I'm just done, you know? Another thing is reflect without rush. And this kind of is what I was talking about a little while ago, where give the space for things to come up, for you to think about things, like reflect on the whole year that was prior and stand on that threshold of this marking the year ahead that's coming, and give yourself the space to reflect without taking action. Reflect on something without feeling like you need to go run and do something else to change what you did in the previous year or what you want to do moving forward. Just reflect. Allow the reflection, write your thoughts out. Write out the thoughts of the reflection. Another thing, and this might sound like so cliche, but eat warm, nourishing foods. Winter is a time when we want to nourish our bodies. We want them to feel warm. We want them to feel like that cozy vibe feeling. That is so natural. Drink warm beverages. Have tea. Have bone broth. I love ending my day with a cup of tea. I honestly do this like pretty much year round, but I end my day with a cup of spearmint tea or my Beam Dream powder, because those two things really help me unwind and just get in the mindset of, again, rest. Another thing that you can do that is really helps promote relaxation is taking warm baths. You guys, I love a freaking bubble bath. Love, love, love. I take multiple baths per week. It doesn't need to be a 49-minute bubble bath. If you can only sit there for 10 or 20 minutes because of, kids or something like that, just take baths. It's so good for rejuvenating your body, helping to relax your muscles, throw in Epsom salt, all of that. If you have a sauna, sit in your sauna. If you have a fireplace, put on your fireplace or start a fire in your fireplace. If you have gas, wood, whatever. Like I said, these all things might sound really cliche, but they are part of honoring the season that you are in. In the summer, it's like you want to be outside, you want to be in the weather, you want to be in the beautiful weather, you want to be at the beach, you want to be running around the grass. Like, it's the same thing in winter, where we want to honor the things of that season that we are naturally in. So while you're doing all of these things, you're going to reconnect with your intuition, because there's a stillness that comes with the slowing down. I have this picture right now of a bear that's hibernating, like, in my head. And bears literally hibernate and they don't wake up for, like months at a time. They are slowed down. Their bodies are literally in a state of hibernation, slowed down, their heart rate's slowing down. And obviously, I don't think the bear is sitting there reflecting, but it's that kind of nature that we want to emulate, the slowing down. And when this happens, we reconnect with our intuition. We get still to hear the small voice within, the whisperings of our soul, the nudges for maybe a direction we're being pulled in, or the ideas that come, the downloads that come. There's a reason why we always are getting some of our best ideas in the shower. Like, tell me I'm not the only one that you remember, oh my God, I forgot to grab that at the store, when you're in the shower. Or, oh my God, I have this amazing new idea for whatever, when you're in the shower. Or you remember to add something to your calendar. It's always when you're in the shower. Well, because you're relaxing, you're releasing, you are settling. So imagine if that 5, 10, 15-minute time that you're in the shower, imagine if you are intentional to do that for an extended period of time, what kind of downloads and little nudges of your intuition that you'll be able to hear and listen to and receive even more. The longer you sit, the more the downloads will come. And it's so true. The longer you sit, the more they're going to come. And in that, I want to encourage you to just listen. Listen, write them down, Don't even worry about making sense of what you're writing down. Just write the things down as they come. Don't worry about the execution. Listen to all of those things, receive them without executing, without taking action. A few other things that you can do to really settle into the rest of this season is having slower mornings, like commit to fewer things in the mornings. Don't book all the doctor's appointments and the dentist stuff and whatever in the morning. If you have to get out of the house in the morning with like a commute or whatever, that's what's crafted, but maybe you change your morning routine to be a little bit more slow or less chaotic. Also, your social calendar, pull back on that in January. Give yourself a space on the nights and the weekends if you're working like a typical 8-to-5 job, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, book less meetings. If you're a nurse and you have 3 or 4 open days in your week or whatever your schedule is, like book less things that fill your free time so that you have the space to do all of this in your free time. January is not for pushing forward. It's for rooting deeper. And if we can recognize that and return to that nature within us, beautiful, miraculous things will happen. So as we wrap up here this episode, I hope this was encouraging for you. I hope it offered a different perspective for you. And this is also a no judgment zone. If you fall in any of the categories from the extreme rushing and redoing and renewing all the way to literally doing nothing, there is no judgment whatsoever on either end of the spectrum. This is just a gentle reminder. And like I said at the beginning, permission to return to your nature and to remember that January is such a beautiful restorative month when we tap deep into it. When we stop the doing, we can start being. I wrote that down in my notes and I thought it was a pretty good quote, if I do say so myself, or I thought it was a pretty good thought, if I do say so myself. When we stop doing, we can start being. And I loved that, just, I don't know, I guess, not comparison, what's the word I'm looking for? The dichotomy of those two things, the doing and the being. When we stop the doing, we can start being. We can be ourselves. We can be who we are. And we can receive the clarity that comes after the rest. That's where the downloads happen. That's where the creativity comes. That's where the discovery happens. It's after the period of rest. And it's such a beautiful thing to receive the fullness of those things in our lives when we are willing to just take a little bit of a step back. And so in closing for this week's episode, as we step into this new year, as we stand on the threshold of this year closing and the year ahead, I want you to remember that you do not need to arrive anywhere yet. January is not asking anything of you. It is just giving you the opportunity to rest. You don't have to reinvent yourself. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to throw yourself into some momentous phase. You can rest and you can listen and you can restore what was depleted from the previous months. You can reflect on what was done in the previous months. The year doesn't need to start out being chased. It will unfold exactly when you are ready to meet it. Rested in your body, rooted in your intention, and whole in your energy. I will see you next week. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Behind the Cusp. If you love this episode, I'd so appreciate it if you'd rate, review, or share it with someone else who's also on their path of self-growth. These all go such a long way in supporting the show. Be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find me over on Instagram at StyleCusp and follow the show Behind the Cusp. And as always, keep tuning inward. True transformation begins from the inside out.